Welcome back, everyone. It's one of the many headlines our president will be in this week. An update on his approval rating. Trump's 6th-month approval ratings are the worst in the past 70 years. An ABC Washington Post poll shows he has a 36% approval, 58% disapproval rating. That's down 6 points from the 100 days mark, the lowest approval rating in 70 years for a president half a year into the job. But is it too late to make a turnaround? Joining us now to discuss, we welcome Associate Professor of Political Science, Dr. Michael Binder. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Always good to have you.
Welcome back, stranger.
Sorry, so these ratings.
I need a break, you know.
And of course, we're going to bring you back in to talk about the, approval ratings and President Trump. So, for people who might not understand what they mean, what are these approval ratings and why are they so important?
It's a simple question that respondents are asked: do you approve of the job that the president is doing, or do you disapprove of the job the president is doing? It's a quick, straightforward. Do you like the way things are going or not with the current? And you do it for presidents and senators and governors and even mayors. So it's a very common question, and it's a barometer for how the country feels of any given elected official at a time.
But nothing happens with it. It's just our opinion,
nothing
how
happens,
we feel.
But it gives a gauge to how popular a person is, and that popularity can then be translated into political power. So if you have a candidate or an elected official who's very popular, they can say, hey, listen, the people are behind me. They like my agenda. Vote for my health care bill. They like what I'm doing locally. Vote for my budget that I just put forward yesterday if you're Mayor Curry. Those are the types of things that can help put pressure on other candidates who might be going to the polls sooner and maybe facing the wrath of the voters earlier than the current governor or president or mayor.
So then what do you think of these approval ratings? 58%
disapprove.
Disapprove.
And in some ways it's not particularly surprising. It was a horribly divisive election. And the current president still harkens back to that race and having win it. And what that does for the folks that were on the losing side is it engenders anger and distrust. On the winning side, he was not the first choice for many Republicans to pick. And he hasn't been particularly effective in advancing the agenda that was talked about. Tax cuts haven't come into play yet, the wall hasn't been built yet, and there's been stumble after stumble on Russia, and most recently the health care bill has failed to get out of the Senate. So there's a series of issues that he hasn't been able to deliver on yet, so some Republicans are backing off a little bit.
Well, let's start with that stumble on Russia with the Donnie Jr. escapade.
Donnie Jr., do you know him like that?
Well, I do. I mean,
we all know, yes.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, so let's talk about that.
Where have you been for the last couple of years?
I knew she knew the DT,
This ain't no
but
surprise.
I didn't know she knew Donnie Jr.
You know,
like
the whole
that.
family. So let's talk about Donnie
hey.
Jr. and him meeting with the Russian attorney. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's a couple things to point at. One is, if you're concerned about loyalty and trust about your innermost circle, there's no better place to look than a family member who you presumably have this connection to and you've worked with closely for 20 years professionally and obviously raised them.
Gave birth to.
Right.
Well, not gave birth.
But was around for it.
There for the birth.
So there's absolutely a huge benefit to that for President Trump. On the flip side, if something goes wrong, you cannot do to your son what you did to Michael Flynn. There's a controversy surrounding Michael Flynn or another staff member, you can fire them. You can make them the pariah. You can say it was them that lied to the vice president. It was them that did all these bad things. They're out, they're gone, we're moving forward. You can't do that with your son. You can remove him from whatever position of influence he might have in the White House, but he's still your son, he still bears your name, and he's still going to be around. And that's a problem politically going forward. Legally, it's a different issue.
So I can't wait to ask you this question. Let's bottom line this. All this stuff with Donnie Jr. and everything, what do you think is going to happen?
The short answer is I don't know, and I know that's probably not the most exciting answer for you.
Professional opinion.
But I think the thing we need to all look at is, and this is what other folks have been saying, is wait for Mueller's report to come out. The hearings in the Senate are not particularly useful, but what happens with that report when that comes out? That is going to be the bombshell. And if it's well, we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that, but everything's fine, that's going to be great for the Trump administration and allow them to move forward. If it comes out and there's real problems in there, and there's discussions of potential collusion, there's discussions of really problems with how they handled things, who they talked to, what they were trying to do, that could then lead to discussion and perhaps even impeachment down the road. These are the types of things that they have to be worried about.
Do you think that he would actually step down?
I don't. I think it would come to an impeachment vote, but that's not going to happen the way this current Congress is made up, both with the House being controlled by the Republicans as well as the Senate. So, I mean, you're talking post-2018, and even that's going to be, hard to get to.
All right, well, let's move on to local politics because Nancy Soderberg, who is also a professor at UNF, she recently announced she'll be running for Florida's Congressional District 6, which is currently held by Ron DeSantis. So tell us about Nancy. How is this? Could she really be successful in getting that seat?
Well, she ran in 2012 for a state Senate race here locally against Aaron Bean, and she came up a little bit short. Nancy has a couple of problems with this seat. One, it's a Republican district, and she's running as a Democrat. So that's always going to be a stumbling block. No matter what anybody says, no matter how good a candidate is, unless your partisanship matches the majority of your district, you're running an uphill battle. Also, she has another problem in that she doesn't quite live inside the district. She's on the northern edge just outside the district. So potentially she could face charges like we saw up in the Georgia 6th about being a carpetbagger, about not being from within the district, not caring about the district's needs. So that's a second issue she's going to have to face. She does have some name recognition. I'm not sure how current that name recognition is, particularly down in Flagler and Volusia County. So she'll have to build some of that, and it's going to depend on who her opponent is that's a Republican. She probably would admit to this, she's not the most dynamic of candidates, but the woman is smart, and she knows a lot, particularly about foreign policy, former ambassador to the UN, and I think she'd be a great congresswoman. The problem is, can she get over that Republican hump with all of those Republicans living in that area?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Congressman Ron DeSantis will run for Florida governor.
Right.
So he told First Coast News, quote, "Considering how I can make a difference and will decide my plans in the fall." What are your thoughts on his potential run?
Well, the governor's race in Florida is going to be wild, I think. You have an open seat for the first time in a little while, and with that, you have on the Democratic side folks like Gwen Graham and several others that have already announced their intention. On the Republican side, Adam Putnam has been planning for this for what seems like 6 years. But there's been also talk of the House Speaker Corcoran getting involved. There's a number of Republicans. So these primaries could be really exciting. And there isn't necessarily somebody from the Northeast Florida region in the race as of yet. I think DeSantis would have some fundraising steps to overcome, also name recognition in the southern part of the state and the western part of the state, where he'd really have to improve. But I think it's going to be a fun and exciting governor's race coming up.
Local elections, guys, these are important too. Thank you for joining us.
They matter a lot.
They absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us. And coming up next, being aware of some of the hazards more common this time of year. We're getting tips on how to handle everything from bug spray to jellyfish stings. You know what I mean when we come back.